Hi, Pastor Randall Neal here, Zion Lutheran Church, Hopkins, Minnesota. And today is Tuesday, June 16th, and we're looking at our weekly devotion time. And I'm so glad that you've taken a moment here to pause and work with me and think with me about some thoughts that I've been wanting to share. My thought this day, is entitled Condemned by Silence. That's what I'm calling it in any case. Now, I think we all realize that we are in a totally different world than we have been for many a year. So many things that are now new and so many new ways of having to deal with life. Your head spinning? Mine is a bit, I have to be saying. Now, one area that has become more front and center in our current collective community conversation is fear. Fear of all kinds. Now, today, rather than do a generic on all kinds of fear, I want to talk specifically about living in fear and uncertainty, not bodily harm, not physical threat, even though they are very real. I want to talk about the fear of ideas, the fear of ideas. And my central thought, I give it to you up front, it's actually rather simple. And that is, you and I, my friends, don't have to live in fear. We don't have to be afraid to share your thoughts, your values, and your hopes. And as a follow-up to that, when you do share, you can do so confidently, but in a respectful and civil manner. So there's my premise for today that I want to touch on. And in part, this is based on what's happening around us. Our culture is not making it easy to feel safe to have an honest conversation with someone else about current issues, does it? If your thoughts or opinions don't fit a certain mold or align with that of others, it sure seems the approach today is to bully someone into submission. And it seems the favorite method seems to be trying to shame your opponent into silence. And if that doesn't work, well, then the social media bombard the internet with often vile and hateful rants about your opponent, demanding someone lose their jobs if they disagree with the desired goal is another much used tool today. Now, many folks have become extremely apprehensive to say anything for fear their words will be twisted or distorted or taken out of context to the point that they come off looking like an insensitive, uncaring, and hateful clod. And who wants that? I don't. I'm sure you don't either. This one or the other attitude happens on all ends of the political spectrum. You catch that? All political perspectives. And it hinders our ability to move forward with any real change. And I think that's not healthy. Therefore, I want us to be thinking about the things that we can do. Now, Pastor Ben Griffith is a pastor of the Alley Lutheran Church in Woodbury area, and also is the executive director of Link Twin Cities. Link is a coalition of caring and compassionate Christian folks who target unreached and marginalized people and groups in the Twin City area. So he's very much attuned to what's going on in the social and political as well as religious areas. And this Link Twin Cities brings together a diversity of leaders from across the Twin Cities. A good group, a very good group, one that we support and encourage. Well, Ben shared last week, actually June 5th, what I thought were some insightful and helpful ideas about this topic, about being afraid to say anything. He said this: the conversation about the deep-seated racism in our country is a marathon, not a sprint. It can easily be easy to overwhelm yourself or feel like you have to cover all your bases at once. Instead, Ben writes, here are two places to start the conversation. And here it is, some advice for us today on how to respond in this time of fearful ideas. And that is this: let someone know their life matters to you. Their life matters to you. That's point number one. You see, the temptation is to broadcast our statement on racism to the world and perhaps overlook the small opportunities to show care to those around us. Now, Jesus' parable on the Good Samaritan is a story about race when you look at it, isn't it? It's a parable of crossing lines and creating bridges. Jesus redefines who our neighbor is in this parable and challenges the listener to sacrificially show care for that individual. So the first step you can take, Ben says, is to build bridges in relationships closest to you. Show them that their life matters to you. I mean, it matters to God, right? And it matters to you. Jesus proved that to us by loving us so much that he laid down his very life to save our own. And when we remind ourselves of the compassion Jesus had for us, we can remember to pour out that compassion on our neighbors. And this mindset can help you, my friends, create a bridge and show care to one another around you and hopefully break down some of those divisions. Second effective tool for exchanging thoughts and ideas, Ben suggested, was to learn to approach any potential confrontation first by asking this question. Can you help me see from your viewpoint? Can you help me see from your viewpoint? In other words, to learn another's perspective is to show them love, and it may just open our eyes to see the current realities of our world differently, through a different lens. By listening to someone with a different point of view, it doesn't mean you necessarily agree with them, and I think that's an important reminder. But it does scream, in a good way, that you care enough to honestly hear what they're trying to say. And I think that's an awful lot of the problems that are going on with protests and riots today as we speak. Now, in my pre-marriage counseling as a pastor over the many decades, I lead couples through a major section on effective communication because that's such a critical piece to any marriage. And not just marriage, but all relationships. You see, there are certain simple communication tools that can help couples be better prepared to be good, effective communicators, and as a result, have a better marriage. And these simple principles are actually quite helpful and valid in almost all situations, including the tense situation we find ourselves in today. And two of the basic concepts for effective communication is this: assertiveness and active listening. Let me explain. Assertiveness. Assertiveness is the ability to ask for what you want and need. Rather than assume the individual you're talking to can read your mind or have to guess what you're thinking, you need to ask clearly and directly for them to state their position and want. Here's an example I use in marriage. I enjoy spending time with you, but I also want to spend more time with my friends. I'd like for us to find some time to talk about this. Or another one. I want to take a skiing vacation next winter, but I know you like to go to the beach. That's stating your position. That's assertive. Not aggressive, but asserting it in an accurate fashion. In any potential uncomfortable discussion, politics, religion, or otherwise, to be open and transparent as you can when you share your ideas and desires is a good thing. State your position as clearly as you can. And the second tool for effective communication is what I call active listening. And that means you show you are carefully listening by your body language, head nods, eye contact, acknowledging the fact that the person matters and that their opinions that you care about, by not interrupting them as they're sharing their thought, and then restating what you heard them say. The active listening process lets the sender know whether or not the message sent was clearly understood by restating what you heard. Example: I heard you say that you enjoy the time we spend together, but that you need more time to be with your friends. You want a plan or time to talk about this. Is that right? Or another example to follow up on that ski one. If I understand what you said, you want to go skiing next winter, but I would rather like to go to the beach. Is that correct? That's active listening. What that means, my friends, collectively, is communication is vital to any successful interaction with other people. And of course, I hope the takeaway you take is, why not use these and other communication tools so we can be as effective in our current tense and uncomfortable situation as we can? Because don't we as Christians have the ultimate answer to people's needs and wants, Jesus Christ? How can we make that known? How can people see that in us so that they see that as a viable tool for them? Jesus, by his earthly life and message, set a great example for every human being. But his was far more than just an example of successful living. But better yet, it was a gift of love and forgiveness of sin because of his sacrifice on that cross, and enabling every man, woman, and child to be something far greater than themselves. They can be part of God's eternal family of faith, which ends in heaven. What a great hope and message we're able to cherish for ourselves, but also able to share with our neighbors. So you never have to apologize, my friend, or feel guilty for having this truth and conviction of Jesus' love for you and for all people. So to wrap things up, restate my central point. You don't have to be afraid to share your thoughts, values, and hopes, but you do have to do so in a respectful and civil manner. Thanks for listening today, and may God bless.